All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We're looking at a totally captivating fable that perfectly shows just how fast a quiet, simple life can get completely turned upside down. It's a classic tale about a poor woodcutter, sure, but the themes we're talking about here, jealousy, reputation, the ultimate triumph of the truth, they are literally just as relevant today as they ever were. So let's settle in and unpack this story.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever noticed how someone's total peace of mind can just shatter the second somebody else brings a shiny new object or, a shiny new status into the mix? Well, that is exactly where our narrative kicks off, setting the stage for a drama that's going to test the absolute limits of human character.
So meet Gopal. Gopal is this incredibly hardworking, honest woodcutter, just living a really modest life out in a small village. Picture this, the sun's coming up, he throws his trusty, beat-up old axe over his shoulder and heads out to the forest. His wife Maya mentions they're running pretty low on rice for the house. But Gopal, he's the eternal optimist. He just smiles, completely reassuring her, because he firmly believes that if they just keep doing honest work, Providence is going to provide enough for their home. He is the absolute picture of contentment. He genuinely finds deep peace in that simple daily routine.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark moral contrast between our two main characters. Because right while Gopal is out in the woods, working away with his old axe, outsteps his neighbor, Haridas, from behind the trees. And Haridas, he's holding this brand new, gleaming axe. Right away, he starts boasting, literally laughing at Gopal's worn-out tool. But Gopal just calmly tells him that his old axe is his faithful companion, it's what feeds his family. And you know what? That completely drives Haridas crazy. See, Gopal is perfectly content, but Haridas is just consumed by envy and this greedy need to prove he's better. And that envy, it breeds a really dark plan.
It's actually wild to watch just how fast malice can move. At 8 in the morning, Gopal is peacefully cutting wood, minding his own business. Fast forward to noon. While Gopal is working on the far side of the clearing, Haridas intentionally takes his own shiny new axe and hides it under a bush. Then, literally 15 minutes later, he comes sprinting back, screaming at the top of his lungs, "My new axe! Who stole my axe?" By 12:30, the nearby villagers have rushed out to the scene. Haridas executed this wicked little setup flawlessly, cornering his neighbor in a matter of hours.
And the fallout? It's immediate, and it is devastating. The villagers are looking around, doing the math, and they realize Gopal was the only other person in that part of the forest. And despite his entire lifelong reputation for honesty, the mob mentality just takes right over. They basically assume the temptation of that shiny new axe was just too much for the poor guy, and greed finally won. The psychological weight here is just immense. Gopal is completely isolated. He's pleading his innocence, but nobody's listening. The weight of those false accusations is absolutely crushing, and he has to walk back home with his head bowed in total, agonizing disgrace. Can you imagine the sheer despair Gopal is feeling walking through his front door? He must feel like his whole world just collapsed. But, actually, this is exactly where the story shifts. His wife Maya takes one look at his face, and she just instantly understands. She tells him, "I know you could never steal. The truth will definitely come out one day." Having that unwavering belief from his wife, that's the emotional anchor Gopal desperately needs right now. Instead of just throwing in the towel and letting the village brand him a thief, her faith gives him the profound strength he needs to actually face this crisis head on.
So that night, Gopal is just tossing and turning. He can't sleep a wink. Staring up at the ceiling, it hits him. Just waiting around for some miracle isn't going to clear his name. He's got to be proactive about this. So, at the very first crack of dawn the next morning, he marches right back into that forest. At this point, it isn't even just about finding a missing axe anymore. This is a relentless, determined search for the truth. He's going back to reclaim his life and his honor.
While he's wandering through the trees, Gopal spots these strange footprints in the dirt. And suddenly, this old sage appears right before him. The sage just looks at him and delivers this incredibly profound, cryptic message. He says, "He who hides the truth cannot erase his tracks." Now, this message is the major turning point of the whole investigation. The sage is basically telling him, look, deception always leaves a trail. The lie has physical evidence, and you can follow it.
Let's see how this all builds, because Gopal essentially turns into a detective right here. Step 1, he's back at the scene of the crime in the forest. Step 2, guided by what the sage just told him, he starts actively tracking those strange footprints he spotted in the mud. And step 3, the climax of the search, those tracks lead him straight to a massive bush. He gets down, looks underneath, and boom, there it is, the shiny new axe deliberately stashed away.
But the crazy part is, right as Gopal finds it, Haridas comes sprinting out of nowhere. He is desperately trying to snatch up the axe before anyone else can see.
But he is stopped dead in his tracks. A forest ranger named Jamal steps right out from the tree line. Jamal says, "Stop, Haridas. The truth can no longer be hidden." And as it turns out, Jamal had actually been watching the forest the day before. He witnessed the entire setup unfold, literally from start to finish.
Talk about the tables turning instantly. Haridas starts trembling in absolute terror. The whole village is called back out to the forest, and Ranger Jamal stands up in front of the crowd. He explains exactly what went down, laying the whole truth bare and proving Gopal's complete innocence without a shadow of a doubt. Humiliated and completely out of options, Haridas just bows his head and publicly confesses to everyone. Through his tears, he admits that he framed Gopal simply because he was so deeply envious of his neighbor's unwavering integrity and contentment.
Naturally, the villagers are in total shock. I mean, you'd fully expect Gopal to demand some kind of harsh punishment or revenge here, right? Who wouldn't after being put through the ringer like that? But the crucial takeaway is what Gopal does next. He just stands there quietly for a second, looks at the man who literally just tried to ruin his entire life, and calmly says, "Anyone can make a mistake, but very few people have the courage to admit it. I forgive you." It's just this incredible moment of emotional catharsis. By choosing empathy over vengeance, Gopal totally breaks the cycle of bitterness, showing us the ultimate triumph of grace.
The villagers absolutely erupt in applause, and Maya is just shedding tears of joy. Cut to a few days later, and Gopal is right back out in the forest, swinging that trusty old axe like nothing happened. Except, well, everything has changed. He isn't just known as a poor woodcutter anymore. He is now universally respected by everyone as the most honest, honorable man in the entire village. So his honor wasn't just restored, it was elevated.
And that brings us to the core moral of this whole story, which is honestly so deeply important for our everyday lives. Greed and envy, they will absolutely blind a person, and they'll lead you down some really dark, destructive paths. But honesty, having the patience to let the truth unfold, and the incredible, undeniable power of forgiveness, those are the virtues that ultimately conquer lies. Those are the things that actually earn a person true, lasting respect in this world.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to kind of chew on. We live in a world that is constantly obsessed with the shiny and the new, just like that axe. When somebody else's jealousy casts a shadow over your life, or hey, when you're tempted by envy yourself, is your integrity strong enough to withstand it? Are you going to be the Haridas, or are you going to be the Gopal? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this timeless lesson on patience and honesty sticks with you long after we wrap up today. Catch you next time.